doing super cool things with Outlier. I'd like to welcome you up to do a quick chat. Woo!
My name is Burmeister, as I said, founder of OUTLIER, outlier.cc, if you want to go to the website. And what we do is make tailored performance clothing. It's really about trying to create the future of clothing, take the clothes, classic clothes that almost everybody here is wearing, and kind of drag them kicking and screaming into the 21st century by really, what we call invisible technology, kind of using really subtle and discreet new technologies that create better performing garments. But I actually don't really want to talk about clothes too much at all today. It's about the founding moment, and I had to think really hard, like when did that lightning really hit me? And it really goes back to the beginning of the 21st century, year 2000. I was living in Greenpoint, not far away from here, and it was also the year that North Brooklyn first got DSL. I actually was running an animation company with 2 partners in San Francisco, so I was like, trying to be the first person to get it, but it didn't work very well. And what was interesting is I also, because my DSL would go down every week, I had this device called a Ricochet. I don't know if anybody remembers it or recalls it, but it was amazing. It was one of those things that was 10 years ahead of its time. Basically, it's like the speed that the cellular networks reached a couple years ago, but you could get it in the year 2000, and it wasn't even that expensive, and it was amazing. And it was during one of those days, like when my DSL went down, where I had this moment, and I realized I was sitting there with a laptop that was connected to this little device that was connected to the internet, and I had my cell phone next to me. I was like, that's all I use to do my business. Like, there's nothing else I need. I just need this laptop, this Ricochet device, and a cell phone, and I'm good to go. I can work anywhere that Ricochet works, which was about 10 to 15 cities in the US. And it was kind of like amazing to me. I was like, wow, I could just go anywhere. But, I was living in New York and pretty happy for a few months when all of a sudden I realized I had to move. My apartment was going to get taken away from me, and I started thinking again. I was like, you know what? I hate looking for apartments in New York City. It's like one of my favorite things in the world. And I can do all my work on this laptop and the cell phone, and that's it. Why don't I just go? I can travel the world and work, and spend a lot of time in San Francisco with my partners, but never move to San Francisco. Sorry, it's for me. But it's a great city, but only in like short measured doses. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do it, and I got rid of everything I owned. Records, books, and reduced everything down to one single laptop bag, half of which, not laptop bag, carry-on bag, half of which was like electronics equipment of various sorts, and I was ready to go, and I sort of had a public beta of sort. I left my apartment, and I had 1 week where I was house sitting, and I had tickets to get out of town, and I was ready to go, and I was really excited, and I was like, this is going to be great, and this company I was relying on, Ricochet, went out of business on day 2. They raised over $1 billion, I think $1.1 billion, and they had maybe 1 user. I think officially they had 50,000 users, but I've never met anybody else who ever used it. And so I had this sort of second moment. It was actually the very dawn of Wi-Fi at that time. And there were 3 sites in New York City that had public Wi-Fi. You need to get on the internet to figure out where they were. And I suddenly lost all connections to the internet, but I remember where one of them was. It was at NYU, and some professor was running it. And so I had this moment, I'm trying to upload client files, sitting in Washington Square Park with the crackheads still. There's still a few of them left at midnight, like just kind of frantically hunched over my laptop, and I was like, wow, this is really going to be a lot harder than I expected. But what happened is that I actually lived like that out of a carry-on bag for 4 years, and it was fun. I saw the entire world. It was crazy. It was really hard, and I started thinking a lot about clothing. Because I didn't have very much of it, and it needed to perform, and it needed to look, and it took about, I guess it was 8 years from the get-go before OUTLIER even came to existence. There was a false start. There was like totally doing wild other journeys, but I have to trace that start. It was really then. And I mean, the key thing when I think back is just how much hard work it is. There's a more classic outlier birth story. It's available on the internet if you want to find it. I've told it a million times. It's basically our founding myth, and it's true, and it involves tons of luck. But the thing that I've realized over the years is that luck's about being ready to take advantage of it when you're starting a company. There's going to be a lot of good luck and a lot of bad luck, and you have to be able to run with that good luck when it comes.
Being ready and also coming up with your best ideas surrounded by crackheads. I think that is sort of over the years. It's Jim, did you want? We're going to ask any questions. Any questions? All right. Didn't frame it properly in my intro. I apologize. Did anyone have any questions? Yes.
Can you explain how you got to understand the garment industry being in tech?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So, this is the more classic outlier story, but eventually, I spent a lot of time thinking about clothes when I was traveling the world, but then what really happened, I started riding my bike a lot everywhere. I started realizing if I want to be healthier, there's a better way to move around. I was back in New York at the time, and I was destroying all my clothes. And so I was like, all right, I gotta just go buy something to take care of this. I can't go through another $188 pair of jeans every 2 months or whatever. And so I went shopping, and I sort of thought that what I wanted was going to be out there, but it wasn't at all. And I kept on shopping, and I'd been looking for years before actually, and I finally hit this point where I was just like, this item I'm looking for is going to exist. I have to create it myself. And so I went down to the garment district. There's a kiosk on 39th and 7th. It's like a button with a needle through it. And it's like the Garment Center information kiosk, and I went up to it and I said, hey, I want to make a pair of pants, can you help me out? And they were like, sure, here's a printout of 100 factories, 90 of which are not in business anymore. But that was the start, and the Garment District is a really fantastic place. It's it's a remnant of a very different New York. I grew up in the city, and it's fascinating to me, just how vibrant and intense it is, and how compact. It's a very small area. We can pretty much do anything in terms of making clothes that you could have done 80 years ago, which is quite a lot. The technology moves into the apparel world in sort of weird, kind of fractal pace. So basically, the Garment District taught me everything. I just go around and knock on doors and be like, hey, I want to do this. And usually people will be like, yeah, we don't really do that. But because the Garment District is so networked and interconnected, they would be like, yeah, but go across the street. There's a guy on the 5th floor who does exactly what you're looking for. And you go there, and half the time he does it, and half the time he doesn't. But it's just a lot of asking questions and diving in, and just trying to learn.
Great, thank you very much.